Hi, this is Gabe from TVM, bringing you another episode of How We Did It. On today's episode of How We Did It, we're going to continue our Stunt Dummy Double creation series with his skeleton and joint creation. Starting out, we had a basic idea of what the human skeleton consisted of. So this was our basic joint. It consisted of one ball, a bolt, a couple nuts, and this hose clamp. It proved to be not quite as mobile as we need, seeing as you only have about 90 degrees of movement in one direction. So we ended up with a double ball joint. And now, if you notice on the skeleton, we have two balls associated with each joint. That's giving us about 90 degrees both directions on both balls, giving us roughly 180 to 200 degrees of rotation. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on how we made these balls. Now each ball has a 3/8 inch hole drilled directly through the center with 1/2 inch inset hole for the nuts and the bolt head. The 1/2 inch inset should barely penetrate the inside of the ball. Now the first ball gets the bolt head and a nut, slightly compressed so the ball becomes bulged. The reason for compression is when you heat the bolt up, because you're going to grind the head off of it, it's going to heat up the ball enough to where it overflows into where the nut is and locks it into place. Before grinding them both off, make sure both balls are in and the nuts on both sides of your second ball are compressed slightly, just as the first, to, again, create a bulge. So let's get started. Now you may have some difficulty getting this bolt locked down tightly, but it's very important that you get it locked as tight as you possibly can. Same thing with the second bolt here. To start, this will be pretty easy. As the nut sinks further into the golf ball, it'll get increasingly harder. You may even have to compress the ball with your wrench in order to get it far enough in to where you can compress it. Now let's go to the grinder. So the purpose was to get both sides of the bolt flush with the roundness of the ball. You notice here and here, and then also if you take a look at the center of the ball, both balls, the rubber has melted over the nut. Now if you take a look at the difference, this is what the bolt used to look like. Now it's time to insert our joints into our arms. Now we made the arms on a previous video if you want to check that out. Now all we have to do is put this cap on our ball. To do that, we're going to have to heat the cap up and then compress the ball inside of it, cool it down, and then glue our cap onto our previously made arm. So, in order to provide heat, we have our heat gun, and whenever you're doing this, what we found the easiest way is to go ahead and put it on a piece of conduit and rotate it like so. That way you can evenly spread out the heat. So while you're heating it, you'll see the pipe start to become liquid, and that's whenever you know it's ready. With our heat gun, it hasn't taken more than 1.5 minutes for it to be ready. Don't worry if you don't get it far enough in the first try. Just pop the ball back out, get your piece off, heat it back up again, and try again. squeeze as hard as you can to compress the ball inside. Now that we've got our joint made, we're going to go ahead and pop it inside our dummy. Now, in order to do so, we're going to heat up the arm socket that we've already made to make it pliable, easy for the ball to get stuck in there. And there you have it, our shoulder socket for our articulating dummy. So now we're ready to put his arm on. If you notice, one thing to be careful about whenever you're gluing your pieces together is where the hole is that you cut in for your sockets. If you notice on this one, it's going to be to the side. On his shoulder piece here, it's at the bottom. What that does, the shoulder piece is going to let him move his arm up and down this way, and the arm piece, since it's on the side, it's going to give him the ability to go slightly across his chest this way. Before you glue everything together, be sure to check and make sure the mobility of your dummy is how you want it. These holes, so on and so forth. Down. Now, last step is to put these hose clamps on, and what that does is allows us to adjust how tight each socket is. So, for instance, I'll give you a little demonstration of his arm movement. Because the way we have these two balls here, you can go up, lift his arm up this way, and go across this way. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Don't forget to click the like button, and I'll see you guys next time. Remember, these videos aren't designed to show you how to operate various tools, such as hand tools, power tools, flamethrowers, etc., as we have used them frequently. So, if you don't fully understand how to use these tools and would like to keep your fingers, toes, hair, please learn how to safely operate these tools before attempting any of these projects.